If you are thinking about picking one up, I just want to walk you through my experience actually living with it. Because this kind of water heater can be really straightforward once it is in, but the path to getting it installed can catch people off guard. I am not a plumber, I am not an electrician, and I had a lot of questions before I felt comfortable committing to it. I switched to this unit because I wanted to get rid of a big tank taking up floor space, and I wanted hot water that does not depend on a tank refilling and reheating. This style of heater makes the most sense for a smaller household that wants consistent hot water for normal routines like showers, dishes, and laundry, without dedicating a corner of the garage or utility room to a large cylinder. If you have a big family and 3 bathrooms running at the same time, this specific model can feel limited, and I will talk about that later. Physically, it is a compact white box that mounts to the wall. The build feels simple and practical. It is not decorative, but it also does not look industrial or messy once it is mounted. Mine is in the garage, and the biggest thing I noticed right away is that I got usable space back. With my old tank heater, that area was basically dead space. With this on the wall, I can actually store things and move around without bumping into a tank. On the front, the controls are easy to understand. There is a digital temperature display, and changing the temperature is not a menu maze. I like that because I do not want to treat a water heater like a smart home gadget that needs constant attention. I set my temperature once and I rarely touch it again. Installation is where I need to slow down and be very honest. This was not a quick swap for me. The unit pulls a lot of power, and in real life that matters because it affects what your electrical panel can handle. In my case, I needed an electrician to add 2 double-pole 40-amp breakers, and I needed a plumber to handle the water connections cleanly. If your home is already wired for heavy electric loads, you might have an easier time. If it is not, you should plan for that work. I did not want to gamble with it, so I hired it out, and I am glad I did. Water pressure also matters more than I expected. These tankless units need enough flow to trigger heating. I keep my water pressure around 70 pounds per square inch, and with that, the heater turns on reliably. When my pressure dipped during some unrelated plumbing work, I could feel the system getting pickier. It was not broken. It was just reacting to the conditions. That is something I never had to think about with a tank. I also added a sediment filter before the heater, and I recommend doing that if your water has grit or mineral content. Where I live, the water can carry sediment, and I did not want that building up inside a brand new heater. I also had flush valves installed, and that has already made me feel better about long-term maintenance. Once a year, I can isolate the unit and flush it without turning the whole thing into a project. That is not exciting, but it is the kind of boring detail that keeps equipment running. Daily use is the part most people care about. The main thing to understand is that it is not instant hot water at the faucet in the sense of teleporting heat through your pipes. You still have to wait for the hot water to travel from the heater to the tap. So if your bathroom is far from the unit, you will still run the water for a bit. What changes is what happens after the hot water arrives. With this setup, I am not waiting for a tank to recover. I can do back-to-back showers and then run laundry, and I do not hit that moment where the water suddenly fades because the stored hot water ran out. In my house, with 3 people most of the time and occasional guests, it has been consistent. I can run one shower and still use a sink without the temperature swinging all over the place. When I push it harder, like a shower plus the dishwasher, it can still hold a steady temperature, but you can tell you are getting closer to its limits depending on the incoming water temperature. Incoming water temperature is a real factor that changes the whole experience. If your groundwater is warmer, the unit does less work to reach your set temperature. If your groundwater is very cold, the heater has to work harder, and that can lower the amount of hot water you can get at once. For me, in a warmer part of the year, it feels like it has more breathing room. In colder months, I can still get comfortable showers, but I am less likely to run multiple hot water things at the same time if I want everything to feel stable. Let me talk about the temperature setting, because I ended up adjusting it after living with it for a while. I keep mine around 132 to 135 degrees Fahrenheit. It is hot enough for showers and dishes, and I am not worried about scalding. The unit can go up to 140 degrees Fahrenheit, but I do not need that, and I would rather keep it at a level that feels safe and practical. What I like is that once I set it, it stays there. I do not get random drifting or mystery changes. Noise and general behavior are also worth mentioning. It is quiet. You might hear a faint internal sound when it is actively heating, but it is not a loud appliance. There is no tank rumbling, no burner sound, and no standing pilot. It just sits there until you call for hot water. Now, on smart features and app support, I want to be clear. This is not the kind of product where I am living inside an app. In my day-to-day use, I do not use a mobile app to run my water heater, and I do not want to. I care more about reliability than remote controls. This unit is more about simple on-unit control and consistent behavior. If you are looking for detailed app graphs and constant monitoring, this is not really that type of experience. For me, that is a positive because it means there is less to fuss with. There are a couple of limitations I think you should know before you commit. The electrical work is the big one. If your panel is already near capacity, this can turn into a bigger job than you expected. Another limitation is that the performance depends on water pressure, flow rate, and how cold the incoming water is. If your home regularly has multiple showers going at once, you might want a more powerful model or a different approach. This unit can handle normal household routines well, but it is not magic. You still have to match the heater to your demand. Maintenance is not hard, but you do have to respect it. If you have hard water, you should plan on flushing it on a regular schedule. I do not want to pretend I love doing that, but with the flush valves, it is manageable. I would rather do a little maintenance than deal with scale buildup and a heater that slowly loses performance. Overall, my impression after living with the EcoSmart ECO 18 is that it does what it is supposed to do when it is installed correctly and used within its realistic limits. I get consistent hot water for my daily routines. I do not run out of hot water like I did with a tank. I gain back space. The controls are simple. The trade-off is that the install can be involved, and the real-world output depends on your water conditions and how many things you run at the same time. If you are in a medium-sized home, with 1 or 2 bathrooms being used normally, and you want a wall-mounted electric tankless heater that you can basically set and leave alone, this has been a solid experience for me. If you found this video helpful, subscribe to the channel and leave a comment with your own tankless water heater experience or questions. Thank you for watching.